Hi everyone. Today I would like to ask you all a few things. How do you help someone with an addiction? Can they be helped? What is an addiction? Do you know? Well, if you don't, that's okay. I'll be sharing my knowledge with you all today. I will share with you all the do's and the don'ts to help an addict. Everyone has an addiction, whether it's our phones, food, alcohol, or drugs. An addiction is something that we believe we need to have in our life. We believe that without that substance, we'll basically die. Two of the most dangerous and hurtful addictions would be drugs and alcohol. Sometimes we consider it a bad habit, but it's actually an addiction in denial. Drug use is on the rise in this country, and 23.5 million Americans are addicted to alcohol and drugs. That's approximately 1 in every 10 Americans over the age of 12, roughly equal to the entire population of Texas. But only 11% of those with an addiction receive treatment. It is staggering and unacceptable that so many Americans are living with an untreated chronic disease and cannot access treatment, said Dr. Kima Joy Taylor, director of the CATG initiative. If one of your family members was addicted to drugs or alcohol, how would you help? Here's what not to do. Do not ask them to choose because they will not choose you. Do not turn your back on the addict. Do not blame. Do not criticize. Do not make them feel worthless. Most importantly, do not be angry. Nowadays, we punish those whom have addictions without realizing that it is not helping them get any better. We are to support the addicted person in our lives without enabling their addiction. Do not block them out of your life. I understand that these steps are not easy. It is not easy to not be angry at that person, but we must not give up. We must help them fight this battle. Step 1, acknowledge the problem. Step 2, tell them you love them. Step 3, tell them you're not angry. Step 4, help them connect and bond with life. TEDS, which is the treatment episode data set statistic, shows us that 40 to 60% of drug addicts relapse from the kind of treatment. I believe that this is because the rehab does not provide them with that connection they need. And just to provide you with some statistic of our major addiction, TEDS shows us that in 2008, 1.8 million people were admitted to addiction treatment facilities that report to state data systems. 41.4% of treatment admissions were for alcohol abuse. 20% of treatment admissions were for the abuse of heroin. 17% of admissions were for marijuana abuse. British journalist Johann Ari shares with us a few studies. One of them showed that people become addicts because of lack of connections. They become addicts because they're so isolated, needing to bond with something. There was an experiment done called the Vietnam War, which was soldiers who were using loads of heroin while they were in Vietnam. The weird thing is that once the soldiers came home, they just stopped using it. The reason why they just stopped was because once they came home, they had those bonds and connections that they desperately needed. And when they used it in Vietnam, they were disconnected with the world, needing to bond with something. Johann Ari also shares with us an experiment done in Portugal about 15 years ago. Keep in mind that Portugal had one of the most drug use problems in Europe, the worst. The experiment was the opposite of what we do here in the United States. It was a program for addicts to reestablish those bonds and connections. They helped addicts to start businesses by providing them with loans and such. They provided jobs for them. They basically gave them a reason to get up in the morning. And the results have shown that this is working. According to the British Journal of Criminology, injecting drug uses is down by 50%. These studies are proof of why we should not isolate and punish the person who is an addict. That would not help them. That would only make the problem worse. The opposite of addiction is connection. If we would take the time to help the addict get back up from that hellhole they live in, the world would be a better place with less addicts. I hope you all take this information with you and help someone in need, whether it's a family member, a friend. Connect with them and reestablish that bond they desperately need. We must let them know we love them, even when they are using and even when they are not.